Welcome to Mission Undercover. Joining me today is entrepreneur, real estate investor, and podcast host Aditya Mehta. He hosts the Diaspora podcast, which tells the stories of first generation immigrants in America, and he operates a property management company in Seattle. We will discuss entrepreneurship, investment, and social mobility in immigrant communities. To start with, what businesses have you started and what inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I come from a community called the Gujaratis in Western India. And for those who don't know, we are a very entrepreneurial community. So my parents have had a financial services business for a long time. So I was always in that atmosphere at home where I would be surrounded by business talk day in and day out. I started my first business at the age of 6. It was a flower pot painting business. I don't think it scaled very well, to put it in today's terms. But I've always been dabbling in small businesses here and there. But my first major endeavor after my family business, where I worked for about 7 years, was an international property management company. It ran out of operating capital eventually. So then I set up a fintech startup, then a social media company, then another social network for new immigrants in Canada. And now this is my fifth sort of real business, which is the property management company. I also have stakes in other companies where I advise or participate. But those are all my kind of entrepreneurial ventures. And currently, the property management company is the main bread and butter, so to speak.
Tell me more about what you've done around social media. What do you think about the way that currently social media sites are structured? Do you think that they're actually helping to support social connection, or do you think they've actually become cash cows for the tech brands?
No, it's I have a balanced view about this. There are obviously a lot of downsides to social media. And the short answer is no, it's not really facilitating social connection. But like for example, I post on Facebook once a year. I barely read anything on Facebook. It's there because it's there. I have had an account since 2004. I'm not going to delete my account. But it's creepy that when I'm talking to somebody about something and then the ad shows up on my phone. um, but I do think that a lot of people have used social media to build their businesses, to build their, especially content creators. There is a lot of good that did come out of it as well. And it's like any knife, you can use it to cut a throat or cut some food. So that's what I feel about social media. I'm not on Twitter. I find it too negative, or X it's called. I'm on Instagram, but there I follow people who teach me something. So it's a little bit also about how you use it.
What do you think about this solution that we're talking about in the UK, that we limit the addictive parts of social media? So that is more focused on connecting people rather than sucking away their attention and keeping them on the platform, like
I think
limiting
it's a
auto scroll and infinite scrolling features.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing because I think in California there was a judgment recently around the same thing where
Yeah.
YouTube and Meta lost their case on it not being addictive. So I definitely think that the government needs to step in through regulation, be it for social media, be it for AI, and create that overarching structure that protects the users and ensures that no one side gets too powerful.
What advice do you have for someone who wants to start a business, who has an idea? How can they make an idea into a reality? And what do you think about AI? How do you think that people can use it today? And do you have any strong views on it?
Yeah, I think it's easier now than ever to start a business. AI can create your website. AI can help you vet your business idea. It can be a devil's advocate on all the things that you're trying to do. It can give you a marketing plan, a business plan, finances. It's ridiculous. Like if I feel like if I had this back in 2013 when I started my first company, I would have had a much better chance of success because it would have probably flagged some basic mistakes I made as a new entrepreneur. Yeah, I mean, we use it so extensively in our business. I'm not using it to replace anybody right now. I'm using it to augment people's capabilities and make them more productive and ensure that we deliver better experiences for our landlords, for our tenants. And I'm a big proponent that just like social media, we have to be watchful of the bad that can come out of it, but there is immense good that can come out of it if done right.
I think that's key, that AI doesn't replace workers, it works alongside them and helps them to be more productive and improves their capabilities, but also helps people to start businesses, helps creative people as well, not just people who are working jobs. I want to ask you a different question as well. What mindset do you think that someone who wants to be an entrepreneur should have?
Oh man, I think the number one trait I think helps me when I'm doing a business is curiosity. It always makes me observant. It makes me keep looking around for new opportunity, better way to do things. The second quality would be resilience. It's not an easy thing being a business owner. The great business idea you have is just day one. After that, it's all the things that surround it: your marketing, your sales, your product fit, your customer relations, your employee relations. So it's very important to have that resilience and keep a positive attitude that it will get better, and it'll get worse before it gets better. And I think the third trait that really helps me as an entrepreneur is that I have an abundance mindset and not a scarcity mindset. And if your listeners are not familiar with that, an abundance mindset means that there's always going to be more. So if there's a pie, and if I give away some of the pie will actually grow bigger. And a scarcity mindset says that if I give away some of the pie, I will have less. So you always give before you receive, and it always comes back to you in great ways. So I think those three things: curiosity, resilience, and abundance mindset would be my top three.
What's your view on the rise of these new vibe coding tools that are actually helping people to build businesses from scratch without knowing any like technical expertise? Do you think that these can actually help you be successful, or do you think that you actually need to be a bit more technical, a bit more professional with things?
Yeah, end of the day, you can get anything off the ground, but to sustain it and build it into something real is you still need your own brain power for that. You need your own empathy, you need your own judgment, your values. All of those things may not be replaced by AI, at least not right now. So you could get any business off the ground, but you still have to pay time and attention. I don't think there is anything really such as like just pure passive income where like you do nothing and you get money, because risk and reward are related. So if you're not taking any risk, you're not going to get any reward. If you're not investing any time, money, anything, you're not going to get any reward. So uh, all of this is to speed up your go to market, and is to give you superpowers in areas that you don't have that in. But if you know nothing about nothing, then AI is not going to help you beyond a point.
What's your advice for self improvement in your personal life? What are the most important small habits that you built that help you in your life?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And it talks about a few key concepts. One is that instead of focused on results, focus on identity. So if I want to improve my, let's say, my cardio abilities, instead of saying I'm going to run a mile a day, you say I am somebody who runs every day. And the second part was enjoy the process and forget about the result. So don't look at your weight every single day, because the results are not linear. So if you want to lose 2 pounds in a month, on day 15, you will not have lost 1 pound. You would have lost half a pound, but you will get there by the end of the month. But most people see that and get disheartened at the 15th day. So enjoy the process of being a runner and running every day versus looking at the result constantly. And one day you'll notice that, oh, this shirt fits better, and then that becomes a motivator. The third part was make this habit as accessible as possible. So I will go put my running shoes with my socks on the treadmill the previous night. There's no excuse then not to do it. So if you want to go to the gym, the habit you're stacking is to put on your shoes and not go to the gym. Because once you put on your shoes, you're gonna go out of the house. Once you go out of the house, you're gonna go. Even if you walk around the block and come back, that's still better than doing nothing. And the last thing is that you have to stack the habits together. So I have about 20 odd micro habits that I do every day. 5 minutes of Spanish, 10 minutes of yoga, 10 push ups, 10 squats, drink water. So all of these are stacked in the morning. So I come down, my water is right there, the treadmill is right there, yoga mat is already open, clothes from the previous day are already there, for like, reducing decision fatigue. Because when you have to think about doing something, you kind of fall in and out. So I have a 2,000 day streak on Duolingo for my Spanish, and because I've made it so easy to do it. And the same goes for negative habits. If something it needs to be stopped doing, then you remove it. You want to reduce how much alcohol you drink, you just don't keep any at home. You're much less likely to go out specifically and get some alcohol to drink. So I highly recommend everybody read that book. It's very well known, and it's absolutely a game changer.
What role do you think your background played in how your life played out and what your success was like? What could you explain, like, to people who are not aware of this, how what the differences are between immigrant communities and immigrant households versus like white households? What's the difference?
Um, I would say not just versus white households, I would say versus people who have been here for multiple generations. I think the one big thing that immigrants it differs with the immigrants is actually two big things. One is that if you have made it to a place like the US or what's called the developed world, uh, not as a refugee, not as a blue collar worker, but as a white collar worker, you're probably one of the best in your home country. And India is a huge country, so obviously the best of a country the size of India is going to be best comparable to the world stage. The second is that you have a lot more at stake. So you can't just afford to quit a job, and especially in Seattle here, everybody works in tech. If you get fired or quit a job, you have 60 days to leave the country or find another job. You're going to put your head down and work and bear whatever's being. We have so many layoffs here, everybody's so stressed out, but people are just powering through because they have too much to lose. But those two things really differentiate. Also, if you come from a developing country, you tend to appreciate the nicer things. Like I love the clean air here. The people here don't appreciate it nearly as much as I do because I come from a city where there was pollution. So immigrants are in general more grateful, more educated, and they have a lot more to lose compared to the average local. Maybe these immigrants, when they're five generations down, things might change. Who knows? But right now, when you we're primarily talking about first and second generation immigrants.
I think the culture also means that we're also trying to look for opportunities and trying to take advantage of everything that's on offer and trying to like make our parents proud and stuff like that as well. And that's why there's such a difference. I think in the UK especially that we've seen reports that white working class boys and communities are declining in educational outcomes because they're not motivated to actually participate in the education system and to try and attain success. They would just want to go into blue collar professions like trades. So, how do you think that dynamic plays out in the US?
Exactly the same. People are worried about AI. People are worried about if their job's going to exist or not. They were told by their boomer parents that, grow up, get a college education, and you'll be fine in life. It's not played out for millennials. Housing prices are unaffordable. And I think millennials are I think the first generations in recent times they are poorer than their parents. So a lot of people are moving towards the trades. In Seattle, if you are a plumber, you can charge $250 just to show up, and that is, I think, crazy money, right? Like for somebody who's not got a formal education or a master's degree. But also, I do feel like a lot of people they're taking the wrong decisions on the college side. I'm still a fan of college. I have two degrees and an additional real estate finance degree. If you're going to go to art history as a major and then expect to get $100,000 job, it's not going to happen. So you have to take those choices carefully and not blame the system for it, right? If you have a history major, you're going to be probably a history teacher. You're not going to be an investment banker. So there are still jobs that pay high after college, so go into those professions. And immigrants are very smart about this. They all do STEM degrees and finance and all of that, and it gives them that initial boost, and then that ladder just keeps going up and up.
I think part of the cause of some degrees and some professions being devalued is because the economy is so oriented towards financial services, especially the UK, because our number one export is financial services and our entire economy is completely dependent on it. So, what I advocate for is that we should diversify our economy and orient it towards real economic activity, not just speculative finance, so that people have actual jobs that have social value rather than just financial jobs that move money around and shift profits and speculative finance. But I think that university obviously has become really expensive these days and it's not providing value for people anymore, especially if they come from poorer backgrounds. It was supposed to be an engine of social mobility, and now that opportunity is declining for so many people. So, do you think that something like free education or making it more accessible in any way would be helpful to help reverse the decline in social mobility that we are seeing today?
Yeah, so at least in the US, you have free public schools up to the grade 12. Colleges are not free, and they've gotten very expensive, like you said. They used to charge the international students even more to subsidize, in some part, the locals. But I think universities have, in the US especially, are like sporting teams with universities attached to them more than the other way around. The coach is paid higher than what the president of the university is paid. I do think that there needs to be some sort of subsidy and some sort of like help with education, but it has to be strategic in the sense that what does the country need at this time. So then in like the case you described for the UK, I would not subsidize financial services education. I would subsidize if you need teachers, I would subsidize those degrees. and say that we really need teachers, because the world seems to be anti-immigrant right now. They don't want to bring in more people from other countries to fill those positions. Canada did that, and they forgot, I think, to do all the other infrastructure that goes along with a big population increase. And now there's medical lines backups, there's backups for driver's licenses and whatnot. So yeah, this can be used as a strategic lever to meet the economy's needs and direct people into those areas of like education or skills.
What do you think of the education system currently? Do you think that it should be changed to adapt to cater towards certain skills, or do you think it's fine as it is?
I'm not super familiar with the. So I did my MBA at the London Business School, but I'm not familiar with what comes before that in the UK, because my undergrad was in the US and my high school was in India. In general, I feel like education needs to move more towards how do you use all these tools that you have and how do you adapt them to your functional area. So if I want to be, I don't know, let's say civil engineer, part of it is to learn the technical aspects of civil engineering, but then the rest of it should be focused on how do I use AI better? How do I use, what are all the other skills I'm going to need at work? Because most people who get out of college are not employable. They need to be trained so much. And I know Gen Z is building sort of a reputation now as being focused on all the things that millennials and Gen Xers don't like mental health or whatever. Like, right? It's a common joke, but I do feel like a lot of people are just not employable when they come out of their degrees. So the system needs to be changed in that aspect. And I don't know if you're familiar with education in South Asia, but its focus is on rote learning. There's no application, right? So I can recite a whole poem, but I don't know anything about what the poem means. So I think that practical skill set is very important. And the biggest missing piece in my mind across pretty much the whole world right now is financial literacy. Nobody's teaching you how compound interest works. What is tax benefit? What is an ETF versus a bond, versus like where you should put your money? What are the goods and bads about crypto? Nobody's teaching this. And there's probably a financial services lobby that makes tons of money from credit card interest and fees that probably doesn't want it. But I think that could be the single biggest value add in today's world, is to teach young people especially just the basics of finance. I Because I run this property management company, I come across the full spectrum of American society, and it's shocking how low the financial literacy is, even with people who are educated and have very good jobs.
I definitely agree with what you're saying, and I do think that the education system needs to shift towards being more skills focused, and financial literacy is definitely a part of that. And the UK's new national curriculum is trying to introduce more of that, and also more information on how to tackle misinformation and how to be more politically informed. And I
Yeah.
definitely think that corporate lobbying is playing a role in thwarting reform of the education system. I want to shift now to talk more about investing in personal finance, which kind of relates to this as well. What
Yeah.
advice do you have for investing in personal finance? What are the best investments do you think right now in the AI age?
In the AI age, so the first, like, the basic thing that everyone needs to start with is to have discipline and save every single month. The saving has to come before the spending. So if your salary hits your account on the 5th of the month, your autopay should pick up your savings on the 6th or the 7th of the month, so that you don't have a chance to spend it. And that's a non-negotiable. It doesn't have to be 50% of your salary. Just the habit of taking money and putting a sum aside every month, that's the first, like, starting point. The second point is, what do you do with this money? Where do you put this money? I would first start with having an emergency fund. I think like a large percentage of Americans today cannot deal with even $1,000 unexpected expense, which is crazy to me, because the same people might be spending $50 every week at the pub, or the same people might be spending on mobile games. Of course, there's a lot of people genuine issues which doesn't allow them to save, but I think most people could put aside 1 hour of their salary every week. And if you make $25 an hour, you can put $25 aside. Next question is, what do you invest in? After the emergency fund, where you have maybe, like, a month's worth of savings at the very least, I would not try to beat the market. I would not try to research stocks and all of that. I would rather just put the money in an ETF, in a broad equity or debt ETF, where there's a fund manager doing all the stock picking for me. You might say that this year the AI stocks went up 60% and I missed the boom. But if you're investing month on month, every month, and discipline, and in a large basket of stocks, you're going to get phenomenal returns over the long term. The equity markets have never failed to give huge returns over a long term. If you hold it for a month, then you may even lose 10% or 20%, but in a bad time like a global recession. But the people who have held on and just kept putting in money at every price, those are the ones who have done really well. For you to get to a point where you're smarter than a fund manager, it's going to take a lot of time and resources, which you may or may not have. And it's a distraction from what you are good at and what will get you more salary, more income. The ratio between equity and debt depends how much risk you can take. Younger people can take more risk because they have more of a earning lifetime left. So the common ratio is 100 minus your age. So I'm almost 40, so I can put 60% of my funds in equities. Now I'm a more informed investor, so I may take more risk. I might do something on the option side. I might dabble in other forms of investment. But that whole adage that the real estate is your main purchase, it doesn't hold true anymore in my opinion, because A, it is so expensive to get in, and B, it's so expensive to maintain, and given the interest rates and given all the costs associated with it, most people don't get there till very late in their life. But if you want real estate exposure, there is a real estate ETF you can buy. So put 10% of your money in that instead. So I would just keep it simple and not overcomplicate, not try to be get rich quick about it. The disciplined savings over like 10, 20, 30 years is what will really give you the peace of mind.
I also think that part of the reason why housing has become so expensive is because it's an investment asset. The reason that prices have risen so much, especially in the UK, is because the government is incentivized investing in property and selling it off by uh, like upgrading it and then selling it off to investors. So I think that shifting away from that would be better to provide people more housing and not have it as an investment asset, but as a human right. And I want to talk more about also the AI bubble. What do you think will happen? Because obviously the stocks are on a huge high right now. And it's looking a bit like 2008. Private credit is booming. There's lots of private debt right now. And the economy is looking really unstable with high interest rates as well. So do you think that
Yeah,
it will collapse?
I think it is going to happen sooner or later. I don't know the timeline, but the PE ratios of all major indices in the world is through the roof. I sold all my stock ETFs and moved to more stable bonds for the temporary time while keeping on investing more every month. And this is not stock advice. So I think it's overvalued. I think it's all based on the potential for earnings. But right now it's an arms race. All these companies are trying to build the best models. I don't think that they're making any money at $20 a month on ChatGPT, right? Given the processing power it takes. So they probably need to charge 10 times that or more. So right now they're not trying to make money off it. There's a promise of like we will have the market share and therefore we will make money sometime in the future. And that's what the whole valuation is going up on, just like the dot-com bubble in the 2000s. So I'm genuinely concerned about like the stock prices, and right now if you see a market correction has happened to few percent because of the Iran situation, but the AI bubble is not yet burst for sure. Even on the private like angel investment side, the amount of funding AI startups are getting, it's just insane. And sometimes I feel like there's so many other problems in the world that you could throw $200 billion at versus some of these stuff. I'm not saying those they're not adding value to the world, but there's a lot of other things we could also be investing in right now.
Okay, so finally, talk to me more about your podcast and what's the different type of things you discuss on there, and what have you learned from the guests that you've talked to?
Yeah, so Diaspora is a show where we talk about first generation immigrants from South Asia in North America. So people who moved in their lifetime, maybe as kids, maybe as adults. The season one was also a radio show here in Seattle. And now we're moving only to a podcast format. So we bring people who have interesting stories. Seattle tends to be very tech heavy. So all the South Asians are in some form of tech. So I have almost everybody who's not from tech. So the goal is one, to show our Indian and Pakistani, South Asian, Sri Lanka, and all these communities that there's a life beyond tech, and there's many interesting things that people from our part of the world do. The second goal is to show locals that immigrants are not that different, and there's a lot of common ground that we have. We talk college football smack on the show. Like we talk about sports teams, we talk about barbecues, and a lot of things that are very American. There is It's an important conversation to have right now with all this anti-immigrant sentiment, to show that immigrants are productive citizens of society. I think the other third goal was like more of a personal goal. I like to have an impact in the community I live in, and this is my way of having a positive impact and leaving something behind which will exist permanently, hopefully, um, and leave something behind that's a trace that you existed in this world. The show has broadly we talk about people from where they're from and what's special about that place, that state. I ask a lot of times the city you're from, if that was an American city, which one would it be? Someone will say, oh, it's like San Francisco or it's like Chicago. Then we talk about why they decided to move abroad. What were the drivers? How was that journey? How difficult was the immigration? When they landed, what were their first impressions? What were some of the mistakes they made? What are some of the funny moments they had? And then we talk about what they're doing now, what their plans are, would they go back, if so, under what circumstances, and finally, what advice they have for somebody who's trying to move today in this environment. And then we end the show with a lighthearted segment about like what's your favorite cricket moment or what's your favorite Bollywood song. But the best one has been what's your favorite mango memory? Because most people in South Asia will have a memory related to mangoes when they're growing up, especially. And the things that people have said has been phenomenal. And one of them said he was from Sri Lanka and I'm from Mumbai, and we have the exact same mango memory of a guy sitting outside the school and selling raw mangoes with masala on it. So it was amazing that someone from the same country but has the same very similar mango memory. And what I have learned about my guests, the ones who I don't know very well or have never met before, they would say that I made them think about things that they're not thought of for 20, 30 years, and they really enjoy the whole conversation. And we don't get political, we don't get opinionated about it's a subjective conversation. The people who I know, my biggest benefit is that I learn things about my friends and acquaintances that I didn't know before. And some of these people I've known for a very long time. And I still found out new things in it during that podcast. Because when do you sit down and have a structured conversation with a friend, right? It's not day to day life. So those were the learnings. The first season had 40 episodes. It wrapped up in January, and we're recording right now for season two, which will launch hopefully in the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting in two ways. One is because it links to the idea of moral ambition. I don't know if you've read the book by Rutger Bregman. It's about contributing to the communities, cultures, and societies that you're part of, not just trying to make money, but also trying to root your ambitions in social purpose. And I think you do that really well. And also the idea that we should have conversations, that we should actually discuss with each other and try and understand each other rather than making assumptions about others, rather than building arbitrary barriers. We should create connections and community rather than boundaries and barriers. And in this world of division and disunity, it's so important that we have that connection and we have that unity. And it's really good that what you're doing is helping to bridge the divide in society. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Thanks so much, everyone, for watching and listening. If you enjoyed that, please make sure to follow on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe on YouTube. This has been Mission Undercover, and I hope to see you all next time.